Welcome to Career Pro Tips by Life in the Green Room. Career Pro Tips is a weekly video series where we give you a tactic, tip, or strategy that you can implement right away to take ownership of your career. Life in the Green Room is all about helping busy professionals who want more out of their career. We provide action-oriented, tool-based plans to help you start driving success in your career. My name is Heather Green-McLinn, and I'm the Vice President of Marketing at a Fortune 500 company. I've used these tools, I've seen my team use them, and I've seen my peers use them. I know that they can help you too. Today we're going to dive into episode 14, Will You Be My Mentor? Will you be my mentor may be one of the most awkward questions and conversations that you ask, especially if you don't have a plan for when you ask that. I think people sometimes really just want somebody to be a guidepost for them and light the path and tell them what to do step by step. And the reality is that doesn't happen all that often. Usually you end up having to have a bunch of mentors, and it has to look a little bit different. I wanted to give you today 3 examples of unique ways that I've used mentors, and then talk to you about how to set up yourself for success when you're looking for a mentor. So let's jump into my 3 stories. The first 2 both tie into a job that I took within my company about 9 years ago. So I switched locations or facilities within my company. So I was brand new at that place, and I took a different job that I had not been familiar with. And I was there about 2 weeks, and my boss calls me into his office and says, hey, we want you to head up the project to implement an ERP system at our site. So an ERP system is an enterprise resource planning system, but essentially it is the backbone of a manufacturing company. So it's the system that when you place an order, when the customer places an order, customer service enters it there, then credit can see it and make sure that they're a viable customer. Then the supply chain team can see it so they can order raw materials for you. Then the planning team can see it so they can schedule a work order and tell the plant when to make it. Then the plant can see it so they can see what order to make things in and how to make it. Then the shipping team can see it so they can ship it out to a customer, and then the finance team can see it so they can invoice. So it is pivotal backbone structure to a manufacturing company. And they wanted me to be in charge of the project manager for implementing this. And I was like, yesterday I got lost in the plant. Like, I got lost and I asked for help and they took me on a cart. Like, I wasn't even close. And they're like, oh, that's okay, you can do it. So I'm all about opportunities. So I said, great, let me take a few days and really think hard about my biggest concerns about this project. And so I had a million, but I was trying to narrow it down. And I came up with 2 that I was the most concerned with. And so I sat down with the head of IT and I said, my first big concern is I have never implemented a project of this size that was using outside consultants to help and had this many players. I had done software implementations, but they were things that I could kind of control myself. And so we talked that through, and he actually was able to find me a mentor from a different place within the company. And that person came to my location at least once a month for the duration of the project, the 6 or 7 months, to help me figure out how to set milestones, how to make sure that everything was on track, how to make sure I wasn't the person who said everything is great and then 2 weeks before go live I was like, we can't do it. And that person was just humongously instrumental for me being successful. And that's probably a more traditional use of mentors. He was literally assigned, helped me through the entire thing for that duration of the project. The second thing I identified for this project was a module that I was responsible for that I didn't feel like I knew anything about. So had I not been asked to take on this project management job for the whole ERP system, I still would have been responsible for this particular module because it fell in my area. But remember, I'm 2 weeks on the job, so I don't know how to do this. And so I was very concerned because it was a pivotal piece of the puzzle. And so we talked this through for a long time with the head of IT. And it turned out who I used as my mentor in this case was somebody who worked for me. This person had been using this current system for years, was very comfortable with it. He understood the strategy. He was good at software, so he could map out what it could do in the new system. And that's what we went with. Now, I don't believe that I ever officially said to the person who worked for me, you're actually my mentor. But what I did say was this is a critical piece of the puzzle and I need you to be totally on board. So if you have any issues or concerns, bring them up to me. I'm gonna be your voice. I'm gonna make sure we get them taken care of and addressed. And it ended up working out really fine, a pretty unconventional way to think about it. So the third example of me using a mentor in a unique way is with Toastmasters. So moving away from that other project, which by the way, we did get done on time, so it had a happy ending. But my other example is about Toastmasters. So in Toastmasters, I have been assigned a mentor, and she's fantastic. She gives me all kinds of great tips on my titles, on my speaking, on my words. I love it. I found that I was actually not taking advantage of all of the great tips that she could give me. Most of the time I was getting her feedback in the evaluation. I was giving the speech to the whole club and her feedback was the best that I was getting. And I really was thinking about, well, how do I get that up front? And this was all me. She was more than happy to work with me ahead of time, but I didn't typically write out all of my speeches. I just wrote out the key points. And so I wasn't sending them to her ahead of time. And after thinking about this, I realized I could just do what I'm doing now. So I made her a video of my speech, sent her a link, and I got the great, really important feedback before my speech in front of the club. And that was just extremely helpful. So I've shared with you 3 stories about how I've used mentors in a traditional versus a non-traditional way, and I have used them a ton of other ways as well. If you are looking for a mentor, the first and most important thing that you can do is be specific and clear about what you want. That's going to be your best chance for success. You need to know what you're asking for, and then you can go figure out how to find it. If you come up to me and say, will you be my mentor? And I say, what would you like to learn about? And you have nothing else to follow it up with, it's an extremely awkward conversation. If I ask you the same question and you say, hey, I'd like to learn more about this specific thing, I can say, great, I would love to help you. Or if it's something I really don't know about, I'm gonna be very honest about that. And I would say, look, I think it's a great idea that you wanna learn about this. I don't actually know a lot about it, but let me see if I can help you find somebody who does. And we can start kind of connecting dots to get you what you're looking for. So my challenge for you when you're thinking about mentors is to get very specific about what you want and then figure out who is the best person to help you with that. And I want you to be very open-minded in this case. I want you to think about it could be somebody much younger than me, much older, a lower title, a higher title, a different job, a different gender, a different industry, somebody completely different. It could be your neighbor, depending on what you're trying to learn. I think that is going to be your best way to figure out how to get the right network for you. If you have a specific skill, it could be somebody who is just out of college, and that may be the best person to ask for that information. So when you know what you're looking to learn, then you can figure out how do you build a network of mentors. That's what I think it takes. I mean, it's going to be great if you find one person who's really going to guide you along, but I think you're going to be a rare, unique case if you find that. I think you're much more likely to find success by getting out there, branching out, asking different people for different things, and being open to when somebody asks you to jump in and help them as well. That's how it works. You ask for a hand up and you give your hand back so everybody can learn. So that's what I have on Will You Be My Mentor? I would love to hear how you have used these tips and how you found success in finding mentorship. Leave me a comment below with that. If you love getting weekly career pro tips, be sure to subscribe. Until next week, here's to owning your career journey.